This is the history nobody taught you, and once you hear it, you won't forget it. Every single woman alive today deals with this. Every woman who ever lived dealt with this for 5,000 years. But for 99% of that time, the thing you buy at any pharmacy in 30 seconds didn't exist. So what did they actually do? The answer involves battlefield wounds, sheep wool, and a moss that scientists are still studying today. And one discovery that happened completely by accident during the bloodiest war in human history. Stay with me, because the last story in this video will genuinely change how you see modern women's history forever. Let's go back 3,000 years, ancient Egypt. This was not a primitive civilization. These people built the pyramids. They had surgery, mathematics, astronomy. They were performing brain operations while Europe was still living in caves. And they documented menstruation openly. No shame, no hiding. The Ebers papyrus, one of the oldest medical documents ever found, mentions it directly. So what did they use? Softened papyrus, the same plant they made paper from. They would wet it, soften the fibers, shape it, and use it internally. Now, before you cringe, here's the science. Papyrus is made of cellulose fibers. Cellulose is literally what modern tampons are made from. These women accidentally chose the correct material 3,000 years before scientists understood why it worked. They weren't primitive. They were engineers working with what they had. Ancient Greece. Women used lint, fibers wrapped tightly around small pieces of wood, essentially a handmade tampon. Roman women had more options. Trade routes brought cotton from Egypt, wool from Northern Europe. Wealthier women used soft wool pads held in place with linen strips tied around the waist. And here's where it gets interesting. Raw wool contains something called lanolin, a natural waxy compound found in sheep's fleece. Scientists have since discovered lanolin has genuine antimicrobial properties. It actively inhibits bacterial growth. Roman women didn't know the chemistry. They just knew wool felt better than alternatives. But they were accidentally using one of the most scientifically sound materials available on Earth. Instinct matched science. 2,000 years before the lab tests proved it. Now, the Middle Ages. And this is where things get genuinely dark. The church declared menstruation spiritually unclean. Medical texts called it dangerous. Some claimed menstrual blood could spoil crops, rust iron, kill bees. The stigma became so total that the practical knowledge women had built over centuries basically vanished from written record. So what did they do? Many women simply bled into their clothing. Multiple layers of dark, heavy fabric, that's not just fashion. Historians now believe layered petticoats and underskirts served a very specific practical purpose that nobody talked about openly. But some women discovered something remarkable in nature. Sphagnum moss, found across northern European forests and bogs. Women began harvesting it, drying it, and using it as a natural pad. Here's the science that makes this extraordinary. Sphagnum moss can absorb up to 20 times its own weight in liquid. More than cotton, more than linen, more than almost any natural material on Earth. But that's not even the most impressive part. Sphagnum contains a compound called sphagnum, a natural polymer that actively kills bacteria. It doesn't just absorb, it sanitizes. Medieval women found a material so effective that during World War I, 700 years later, military surgeons used sphagnum moss as wound dressing because they ran out of cotton bandages. It performed better. A discovery made by women in medieval forests, validated by battlefield medicine in 1916. Meanwhile, on other continents, completely isolated from each other, women were solving the exact same problem. In Uganda, bark cloth from the Matuba fig tree, soft, absorbent, naturally processed. In Japan, thick handmade kozo paper folded into precise shapes. Origami applied to survival. Across indigenous North America, soft plant fibers and natural moss, the same moss European women were using, discovered independently, thousands of miles apart. Think about what that means. 5 continents, 0 communication. Every culture on Earth independently arrived at the same categories of solution: absorbent plant fiber, natural moss, soft cloth. That's not coincidence. That's human beings solving problems the same way everywhere, because the physics of absorption doesn't change based on geography. The solutions weren't different, only the plants were.
Now, the story I promised you at the beginning. 1914, World War I. Kimberly-Clark, an American company, has just invented something called cellulose, a wood pulp fiber, 5 times more absorbent than cotton. Cheaper to produce, softer, disposable. They manufactured it by the ton for battlefield wound dressings, but there weren't enough wounds to use all of it. The nurses noticed the surplus. These were women working 20-hour shifts in battlefield hospitals, covered in blood, saving lives. And they started using the excess wound dressing material for themselves, because nothing better existed. Not a scientist, not a businessman, not a lab. Exhausted nurses in a World War I battlefield hospital invented the modern disposable pad, using leftover wound dressings, because they needed a solution, and they found one. Kimberly-Clark found out in 1920 and immediately launched a product called Kotex. It should have sold instantly. It didn't, because pharmacists refused to stock it, and women were too embarrassed to ask for it by name at the counter. So Kimberly-Clark did something genius. They placed boxes on the pharmacy counter with a small tin beside them. Women could pick up the box, drop coins in the tin, and walk out. No words, no eye contact, no conversation required. It sold out the same day. 5,000 years of women solving this problem in silence. And even when the modern solution finally arrived, they still had to buy it in silence.
Papyrus on the Nile, wool in Roman streets, moss in medieval forests, bark in Ugandan villages, paper folded in Japanese homes, bandages on a World War I battlefield. Every single generation figured it out with whatever they had, without complaining, without stopping. This is 5,000 years of human problem solving that never made it into history books, because the people solving the problem were never the ones writing them. Now you know. If this hit different than you expected, share it, because this story deserves to be heard. Next video, what did ancient humans do about pain before painkillers existed? Wine, opium, and a surgeon who amputated a leg in 28 seconds. Subscribe. You don't want to miss that one.